Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and this is the most long-awaited series in the history of MINDSHOCK. More than a decade in the making. Or close to it. Close to it. This is the most comprehensive, logical, exhaustive, surgical breakdown with a precision unlike anywhere else. No logical fallacies here. This is the examination of the Mandela effect unlike any other. Going down every single possible rabbit hole, exploring every single possible theory, and spoiler alert right from the get-go. Major spoiler teaser. Yes, I have irrefutable proof and definitive evidence that the Mandela effect is not simply people misremembering things. Now again, this is MINDSHOCK, where I do not claim anything is true or untrue, and the motto here, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure, but that does not mean we can't use logic and reason to rule out certain things. Now, obviously, I do not know exactly what the Mandela effect is, why it is, or how it was carried out. But using basic logic and reason, much to the chagrin and endless triggering of coincidence theorists, we can rule out one thing. And I will provide enough receipts to bury and drown the coincidence theorists who are coping by pretending it's all bad memory. They will be drowned in receipts and irrefutable proof that this is not bad memory. And again, that doesn't mean that I know what it actually is, but we can use deductive reasoning. We don't fall for logical fallacies here. Critical thinking is the name of the game, as well as deductive reasoning. Obviously, coincidence theorists don't do well with that. But welcome, one and all. This will be one for the history books. And also, disclaimer, this is just the introductory episode. I will tease the receipts. I will tease. I will provide some. But most of the burying will take place in the following episodes. This is an introduction to the Mandela effect for people who may not even know what it is. That is the purpose of this episode 1. Episode 2 and onward is where we will be doing a Steven Seagal-like receipt counting. But of course, we will start it in this episode. Don't worry, typical MINDSHOCK fashion. We will start it in this episode. If you want to support the MINDSHOCK podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. If you're not getting updates, sign up for the Patreon. Even the free tier will give you all of the updates where sometimes YouTube doesn't. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Or if you're with us here live, drop in the live channel. Try to get to all of them. And of course, you could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube to help support the channel that way. Welcome, Run Boston Bear, Big Pine Sailing. Let's dive right in here for the basic introduction for people who might not have even heard of what is quite possibly the most terrifying conspiracy theory of all time, the Mandela effect. So here's another curiosity, though. I will give my personal anecdote on why it's taken me so many years to do this episode, and why the Mandela effect is one of the few conspiracies that I have to keep stepping away from in regards to research. I won't reveal it here. I'll reveal it in a little bit, my personal anecdote on why this took so long. But we're in the midst now. We're in the midst now, and let's go through the basics of the Mandela effect. So the basic rundown from the, obviously, the establishment controlled Wikipedia the Mandela effect refers to a phenomenon where a large group of people remember an event or detail differently from what is historically accurate. Again, committing the logical fallacy of circular reasoning, presupposing from the get-go that it's a false memory. Which obviously, if time travel is possible, we'll be getting into all the different theories. I do not lean time travel, but I'm not a coincidence theorist who's hallucinating to know that what it is or isn't. But if time travel ever becomes possible in the future, that means it is always possible. So that means time could have been changed. But according to the coincidence theorists, these mentally weak, authority-worshipping cultist bootleggers who can only check establishment sources like Wikipedia, they've already presupposed and hallucinated it must have been false memory, and it couldn't have been anything else. Nothing else at all. I mean, one interesting theory... Okay, hold on. I'll run through the theories in a moment. Let me just go through here. It is named after Nelson Mandela, as many people incorrectly remember dying in prison in the 80s while he actually passed away in 2013. Again, look at the religious reverence, the religious fervor in these so-called establishment sources. Because obviously no political figure could have ever staged their death, or the media could have never possibly misreported a story either through intentional false info, social engineering, psyops, or otherwise. Those are just impossibilities to the mentally weak coincidence theorists, even though there's countless examples of that throughout history as well. The effect is often associated with false collective memory, where individuals share incorrect recollection of events such as the spelling of a book series, movie lines, or even the appearance of characters. Some well-known examples of the Mandela effect include the belief that the Berenstain Bears were spelled Berenstein, the misremembering of Darth Vader's famous line from Star Wars as Luke, I am your father, when he actually says, no, I am your father, and the incorrect belief that the Monopoly Man wore a monocle. Again, look at how loaded this is with propagandized, psyoped language. These examples highlight how memory can be influenced by suggestion, expectation, and the malleability of human recollection. Or the original source material actually did include those things, and people don't actually misremember because humans, especially the nerds, nerd alert, how often do nerds get details wrong? Like, again, does anybody know actual, like, these LARPers, reenactment? I mean, obviously some of them are sloppy, especially nowadays. But back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, these are hardcore, die-hard fanatics. They could recite the script line by line from memory. Does anybody have a friend like this? Or even, I mean, look at how people revere even like rap artists. I mean, they can rap lyrics exactly. They don't make mistakes because they're diehard fanatics. Diehard fanatics don't misremember. They watch so many times, they memorize to the letter. And I'll be getting into the receipts for all of that. I'll be getting into the receipts on that. Who is the main MindShock listener that kept asking about this? Was it Flat Bob? Who was asking about the Mandela Effect podcast for the past year? On almost every live they were asking about it. Are they even here right now? But anyway here, while some suggest theories Mandela Effect could be linked to alternate realities or parallel universes, scientific explanations focus on cognitive processes such as false memory formation and the influence of social media and shared narratives. Yeah, because There was so much social media in the 80s and 90s when, well, we'll get back to this. Researchers like Wilma Bainbridge have studied the phenomenon, suggesting that people may recall what they expect to see rather than what they actually witness. Now, this is true, but this is all red herring logical fallacy. This is all red herring fallacy cope by coincidence theorists who are too mentally weak and too mentally deficient to consider other possibilities other than false memory. Now, while it's true, average normies who may have seen a movie or whatever one time, they are very likely to misremember. Very likely. That is very true. But what I'm going to focus on are the die-hard fanatics who don't make mistakes. And the main issue with the Mandela effect, and this is what I looked at from the very beginning. If it's that easy for the collective to misremember, how come there are only certain Mandela effects? How come nobody's misremembering lines from other famous movies? I mean, there are so many major blockbuster movies. Nobody's misremembering any of the other lines. Like we were talking about Die Hard before, yippee-ki-yay, mother expletive. Nobody misremembered that one. I mean, there's so many major lines, major blockbusters, countless movies, TV shows, etc. Why are there only certain Mandelas and not other Mandelas? Because if memory, like the coincidence theorists cope, is that memory is just that bad and people en masse can misremember. So why are they not misremembering other things? I mean, that's really the easiest way to look at it. I mean, there's so many different companies and logos. Everybody's only misremembering the same one or two dozen. What about all the other hundreds? Where are all the other false memories for all the other hundreds? Big Pine Sailing says, I think one thing is network TV parodies that have kind of worked their way into our brains and replaced our memories of the original. I don't know if possible. Yeah, anything's possible. I'm not going to focus on 2000 plus or 2010 plus, I think the rise of major social media since 2010 or so. Now, obviously, one of the theories is they turned on CERN or the world ended in 2012 and there were timeline shifts, etc., etc. Now, let's not fall for false dichotomies. That might be true. But that may or may not explain Mandela. That may or may not explain the Mandela effect. The other thing I was actually thinking is if technology... Now, I don't want to get too far into Tartaria or advanced technology. If they have some kind of incredibly advanced technology that can change physical media, like let's say somebody has a VHS of one of these Mandela-affected movies, and if so, is it possible all the media could have been changed? I'm not sure. I think that's tough. I don't want to appear to incredulity fallacy. I think that's tough. I think more likely the original was somehow changed. Because if they only needed to change the original, and then all the copies would have been changed. Now, I want to read another write-up here on the Mandela effect before we get into the nitty-gritty here. Because there were also people talking about, for example, the Shazam movie. Like, people were talking about this stuff. I don't know how old most coincidence theorists are that are kind of clinging to the false memory narrative desperately to cope. But a lot of this stuff was discussed pre-social media. And even on video. And we'll be getting into that. We'll be getting into people reenact. See, this is my main exhibit here, if this was a court case trying to prove Mandela, are the reenactments. Whether it's risky business... So, Tom Cruise dancing with the sunglasses. Actually, you know what? Let me play a video here. Let me start off with a video. Let's get some visual representation up in here regarding the Mandela effect and just the different effects. So that people that are new to this can... And this is AI. So this is AI, but it's like a visual aid to help people understand Mandela effect. So pay attention to the screen here. Actually, I don't know. Is there audio here?
Yeah, well, history is going to change.
Just take those old records off, child. Just take those old records off. I see white people. I see dead people.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest? Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Hello, Clarice.
Dr. Lake.
Morning.
So those are just a couple of the effects. But the risky, so this one with Moonraker, obviously the whole gag is the bracelet, is the metal in the teeth gag. So it doesn't even make sense in the current reality. It doesn't, like, it, and there's a couple ones like that where contextually you can see that it doesn't make sense. Now here, so this is AI to recreate what the original reality was, because obviously, like, this look just looks a lot cooler. Like, if you're a costume designer, obviously you'd go for something like this. But here's where the proof is, and who just commented here? Big Pine, Rune Thornton said, hold on, let me go through the order here. Rune says it is as undebunkable as it is unfalsifiable. Literally no difference from Mandela effect simulation theory. Raised by Gypsy says, Stuffers, stovetop stuffing. At Thanksgiving, we would tease Mom about her stuffing being stuffers. I don't know about that one. Yeah, there's certain ones where I didn't use the products or I just don't know, and so I don't have any memory at all. So I can't, there's certain ones I can't comment on at all. Flapop says, wasn't sure how it was pronounced, and I was an excellent speller in elementary school. It was me that's been asking for the Mandela Effect podcast for a year or so now. Oh, Flapop. Yeah, I thought it was you. Well, now that you're here, we're all good. Jeff Hunt says, there were companies that bought the franchise rights and changed for legal reasons to avoid paying royalties. It's BlackRock deniability. There's some of that, yes. Let's not fall for false dichotomy. But I will be addressing certain ones where there is irrefutable proof that the original version was what people accurately remember and not the coincidence theorist cope of false memory. Rune says, you couldn't prove it ever, Bruce, unfalsifiable if timelines literally changed. Well, here's the thing, Rune. It can be proven. Because, and I'll do it in a few different ways. Because the main issue here, I mean, I'll go through the different theories of what this could be. False memory, and again, let's not fall for false dichotomies. Some of these could very well be false memories or people misremembering. But here's the thing. Again, I'm going to focus on a lot of die-hard fanatics. So if anybody knows, like nerds, like these geeks, diehards, they don't make mistakes. They're detail-oriented. They're obsessed with this. They watch frame by frame. They recreate, for example, this dance sequence by Tom Cruise. They'll watch the movie frame by frame. They're not going to make a mistake on the wardrobe. They're not going to make a mistake on the lyrics. And I'll be getting into tons of receipts for this stuff. Another theory is that there's some kind of social engineering going on where it's all gaslighting into pretending it's some kind of weird MK Ultra psyop to pretend that it was never like the true memory that people have. So a lot has been changed, but obviously they would never be able to change all of it. They can change it digitally, obviously. For streaming, they can change the source file. Now, what kind of advanced tech would they need to change a VHS tape in somebody's attic? That's tough. That's tough, isn't it? But I'll be getting to that. So there could be some kind of mass psyop going on. I guess I'll go through the theories. I'll drop my anecdote, and then we'll get into receipts. So another theory is that timeline literally was changed in the past through some kind of ripple, like, for example, the CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, being turned on and having all sorts of possible unintended ripple effects. So it's not like they, because a lot of goofs, a lot of coincidence theorist goofs are like, well, why would they randomly change a logo or something in a movie? It wasn't intentional. Like, these goofs, they don't have the mental capacity to comprehend that sometimes unintentional things happen. And all sorts of things could have been changed, and these are just certain ones that are noticeable. And there could be all sorts of random butterfly ripple effects. And we'll be getting into more of them. We're going to focus on media here, but there's tons of other ones that aren't even about the media. But, I mean, there's anatomical Mandela effects on how the human body has changed and all sorts of things like that. Jeff Hunt says, smart TV could change it live, even record on a VHS. Yes, but what if somebody's watching it on an old CRT who has no Wi-Fi or internet connection in their home, and they're in the middle of the wilderness somewhere? They're like on solar, or not even solar. They're on a they're on a 1980s gas-powered generator, powering an old CRT, a cathode ray tube television, with a VHS player. But anyway, I don't know. Another theory, and so they're monitoring, like, the response to it. And here's my anecdote. So when I first was looking into the Mandela effect, I don't even remember the year, 2015 maybe, somewhere around, probably about approximately a decade ago, maybe 2016, I don't know. And I was looking at Houston, we have a problem. I was looking at it on YouTube, because I just found out about the Mandela effect, or I was relatively new to it, I didn't know what to think. And I remember it's Houston, we have a problem. And then I go to I don't know if it was the movie clips, whatever, some kind of major big time YouTube, like official movie YouTube channel, like affiliated with Hollywood. And it's Houston, we've had a problem now. Now that doesn't sound right at all. Houston, we've had a problem? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't roll off the tongue. That's not easy to remember. I mean, that just didn't make sense to me. As I'm watching it on the YouTube channel, while my eyes are reading the title, Houston, we've had a problem, it changes back to Houston, we have a problem. Right in front of my eyes. Now, obviously, no advanced tech is needed. If somebody's editing it, or if it's automated to change back and forth every X amount of time, or for certain IPs and not other IPs, I mean, that's not strange. They obviously have the power to do that. I just didn't like that feeling, because now it's almost as if the goal of this mass Mandela psyop is to get people to not trust their own memory. Because if they change it back and forth several times, many times, now you're not going to even be sure of your own memory, even though I am sure. Because here's how I'm sure. I used to have this CD-ROM in one of these old computers from the 90s. From the late 90s. Actually, it might have even been 2000. It might have been 2000. It might have been 2000. There was this movie encyclopedia CD-ROM with, like, really cool moments from movies. So I remember, there were movies I had never even seen, like Star Wars. I'm one of these late people. I never watched Star Wars until pretty recently. So in the year 2000, I had not seen any of the Star Wars movies. I didn't know anything about it. And it's Luke, I am your father. And that's what was on that CD-ROM. And it was a clip from the movie. That's how I know it. Because I saw it a million times on the CD-ROM. because it was cool, because CD-ROMs were cool back then. And there was a lot of moments from movies on that CD-ROM, movies I had never even seen, so I had only seen the clips on the CD-ROM. Okay, anyway, there's, and that's not even that damning, but anyway, when Houston and the Houston, we have a problem clip, Houston, we've had a problem, that doesn't even make any sense, because again, I actually, for people that don't know, I was a screenwriter in Los Angeles. I did not work on any major Hollywood studio films or anything like that, just indie films. You would never write a line like that because it doesn't sound right. Houston, we've had a problem. Like, it just doesn't sound right. Houston, we have a problem. That rolls off the tongue. So those are things that screenwriters keep in mind. So you would never really write lines that are awkward, even if they're grammatically correct. That's something screenwriters keep in mind. So for me, yeah, maybe for some kind of crappy student film, they wouldn't necessarily, maybe not. But for any major Hollywood movies, there are certain things that just don't make sense. Let me catch up to the comments here before I get to... I'm going to bring receipts to drown coincidence theorists. Yes, I can prove it, and I will. I can't prove what it is, but I can clearly demonstrate that the original source material... Now, how am I going to do that without using the source material? That's where we get into logic. Alright, hold on here. Wow, I missed a bunch of comments here. Big Pine Sailing says, I make no claims as to how or why, but I remember stuff wrong, and so do many others, so that's weird. Flap Bob says, Bruce, you didn't read it earlier, but I said that I will absolutely die on the hill of it being Berenstain Bears and not Berenstain Bears. Something definitely changed along the way. Yeah, I have quite a few stories and definitive proof as possible on that as well. I think I even mentioned it on live. Let me just attack that right now. Actually, hold on. One step at a time. We got so much to go over here, and this is just the introductory episode. It's not going to be super long. I'm going to drop some teasers, and then I'll drop some receipts, and then we'll be coming for more receipt drowning in the follow-up episodes. Big Pine Sailing says, yeah, I agree. I had Berenstain books coming up as a kid. Never once said Berenstain in my life. Here, the thing with Berenstain, I'm just going to attack it now. There's no way it was Berenstain because kids would be making fun of that all day. There are countless elementary school teachers all over social media that are also willing to die on the hill that it was never Berenstain. And it's I before E, except after C, and Berenstain and certain names are exceptions. That's how many teachers taught this every day. Like, if you're a software engineer, you're not going to say, oh, it's Microsoft instead of Microsoft or whatever. Because you're looking at it and you're teaching it every single day. You know what it is. That's not a misremember. So all these teachers, that's kind of what, because again, I had one or two Berenstain Bears books, but I'm not a teacher that was looking at that every single day. But just with basic logic, kids make fun of anything. If it truly were Berenstain, the kids would be making fun of that like crazy. I mean, the teachers would have had to deal with all of that. So all these teachers with decades of experience, they will also die on the hill that it was always Berenstain. And they always had to explain the order of I and E. Not to mention, if you're a teacher that spent countless years, countless hours going letter by letter, helping kids spell Berenstain, because that could be difficult for an extremely young child who's just learning their ABCs, just learning how to read and write, Berenstain is not the easiest name. I mean, that's a lot of letters. So if you're a teacher who's helped hundreds or thousands of kids learn how to spell using the Berenstain books, you're not going to misremember that. So that's kind of one of the major proofs, if you will. There are many others. I will be getting into many, many others. But yeah. But again, I was not a Berenstain Bears fanatic, so I'm not the person personally to ask about that, because I possibly might have misremembered, but just logically it doesn't make any sense, because all these teachers would not misremember, and all these kids would have been making fun of the stain. Let's try to keep the chat here on topic. Flapbob says, the dude literally tried to gaslight me saying that I don't remember something that I objectively remember. Flapbob says, the main reason I knew it was Stein and not Stain is because I was an excellent speller in school, so obviously I knew how to pronounce Stain, but the ein in Stein threw me off, and I wasn't sure how it was pronounced. I stared at the books for hours. It was definitely Berenstain. Yeah, and that's the case for many children, but the children, like, I will even accept that maybe children can misremember stuff, but the teachers... The adult teachers who spent countless hours helping the children spell, they're not going to misremember. Jeff Hunt says, all the depends jokes fall flat with depend. Yeah, there's contextual proof as well where it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so let's get to this. So, for example, let's say, so obviously, if you're a production designer, wardrobe in the movie, clearly this looks way cooler than this. So just from the eye test, now that's not proof of anything. I didn't get to the proof yet. I'm just laying the foundation here. Just from the basic sniff test, eye test, it's more likely to be this. Okay. So where's the proof? So, if you're a company designing Halloween costumes, are you not even going to check the movie to see if the Halloween costume is accurate? So all these decades, all of the Halloween costume companies got it wrong? Really? That's kind of interesting. All the people that dressed up as Tom Cruise in Risky Business, they all got it wrong? They were too stupid to check the movie? So this got past all quality control in all years, all decades, pre-social media, post-social media. Literally everybody just so happened to get it completely wrong. I mean, nobody bothered to pop it in. Not a single person bothered to even pop in the VHS or the DVD. They just all got it wrong all the time, and all the Halloween stores all got it wrong. All the Halloween costume manufacturers have zero quality control? Really? I mean, that's curious. That's curious. I mean, this must have... A lot of coincidence theorists don't even know what Occam's razor is, but they like to invoke it. I mean, the amount of people this would have had to get past. I mean, that's curious. I mean, a lot of these Halloween costume manufacturers have quality control. Now, here's another interesting proof. There used to be an old, they even had it on America's Funniest Home Videos. There was a clip. I mean, this was going all the way back to the mid-90s. I can't find it, but somebody fell doing the Risky Business reenactment. And obviously they were wearing the sunglasses. But people that are serious about the reenactments, they have the movie on in the background as they're doing the reenactment. So all of these countless people all got it wrong with the sunglasses. This is just the first one I'm attacking here, but I mean, the leaps of logic to hallucinate. I mean, here are some clips that are decades old. I mean, these are not new videos here, but just random reenactments. And yeah, obviously they're not perfect. They don't even have the color of the shirts right, but you can tell how old this video is here. But I mean, obviously they have the sunglasses on. Now, most of the time, they would have just popped in the movie before doing the reenactment or have it on in the background. Now, obviously, it's not 100% accurate. First of all, they're girls, so it's not going to be 100% accurate. But would all of these reenactments from the 90s and early 2000s, even pre-YouTube, they would have all got it wrong? I mean, that's kind of curious. I mean, that's really curious, but those clips from, I mean, this is such an iconic scene. Let's see here. There was a couple more. There's a couple more really old ones. I want to focus on the old ones. The really old ones before social media, before everybody's on smartphones all the time, because that's where I want to focus, because it is valid that if everybody sees reenactments and they make videos off the reenactment instead of the original, that could be false memories. So let's focus on really, really old VHS era here. I mean, on reenactments here. I mean, these are all with sunglasses. I mean, these are all with sunglasses. So again, can absolutely everybody be mistaken? Maybe. But isn't it weird how nobody's making mistakes on non-Mandela affected movies? So all these other movies that are far less famous, when people do reenactments of these, they're super accurate. Nobody's Mandela affected on all these other movies. But only the Mandela affected movies are the ones where people are making mistakes. That's the coincidence theorist position. Very curious. Very curious. If anything, the more recent reenactments I see actually don't have the sunglasses. Now let's take a look at another very, very interesting scene here. So these are professionals. The next clip I'm going to play is made by Hollywood professionals. Now, it's interesting for two different reasons. Because it's definitely not accurate. So this is The Simpsons reenactment. So what's curious here, on The Simpsons one, he doesn't have... He doesn't have the shirt. And he's got slippers on, but he has the sunglasses. So that's curious. So clearly they're professionals, so they could have had him with the shirt and not the slippers. So I'm not sure what the goal was here. But again, the sunglasses are so iconic. Would that be a detail that people forget? And so are the socks. Like, would people forget if he, like, all of a sudden, if he's not wearing socks, is that going to appear correct? And the coincidence theorists are just going to say, oh, yeah, that was just another misremember. He just wasn't wearing socks. I mean, there's just something very, very easy to remember about this outfit. And the coincidence theorist cope surrounding it, I mean, I just find it curious. All these old 90s reenactments where people would literally have to pop in the VHS. I mean, it's kind of curious. It's kind of curious that they would all get it wrong. And I do notice that the newer reenactments, a lot more of the newer ones don't have the sunglasses. So here's another one. This one is from 18 years ago on YouTube. I mean, this one is old. So again, this is before you go on social media and see and get bombarded with countless reenactments. Because almost 20 years ago, there weren't that many of these online. Now there are. But this is what I consider relatively definitive proof. Because if you're going to try to copy all the dance moves, you're going to have the VHS on, or the DVD, what have you. You're going to have it on in the background as you copy it. You're either copying it in real time, or you're going to use it to study and memorize. I mean, this is just this is just homage or reenactment 101. I mean, look how old this VHS camcorder recorded video is here. This is just reenactment 101. Like, how are you going to memorize the dance moves? And obviously, he's got the sunglasses as well. That's why I want to focus on the really old videos before there's a chance to misremember with the bombarding of social media. Let me catch up on some comments here before we get to some more receipts. Big Pine Sailing says, I worked in produce from 15 years old to 22 years old. It's Haas, H-A-A-S. Flat Bob says, Looney Tunes was a wild one. J.C. Penney is a wild one, too. Big Pine Sailing says, Richard Simmons' Halloween costumes got headbands. Jeff Hunt says, the Scary Movie TV shirt would have never gone viral. Rune says, Occam's razor speaks of a tendency, nothing more. Well, the main... I did a whole clip on Occam's razor. You guys can check it out. Basically, only when there are two theories where all else is equal, which is never the case. The one with the simplest assumptions should be used because it is more likely to be true, not that it is true. But I've never actually seen a scenario presented where there are two equal theories. Because there's too many variables on different theories. So, I mean, Occam's razor is never even... There's never really even a situation where it can be invoked if you're utilizing its actual definition. Elaine says, the thinker statue is a really obvious one, showing people right in front of it doing the correct pose while the statue has his hand in his mouth. Wait! That's a Mandela I don't even know about. Hold on a second. Oh, they changed that. Interesting. Wow. Wow. Yeah, they definitely changed that. You know how I know that? I have a personal connection here. I took an art class once, and I still have my photos and drawings. We did both photography and drawings, and we did this one, and we had models pose, and it was definitely not this. That's how I know that. Wow. So there's a new Mandela for me. Yeah, it definitely was not this. Yeah, this is trippy. This is really trippy. Because again, when you have a personal connection to something, you know what? Now I want to dig up my own photographs and drawings, but I believe they would still be what I remember. Because according to the Mandela, only the original is changed. So all of these reenactments and everything, this is, I would put it into the category of, within the Mandela discussion, it's called residue, where some people don't think it's strict residue, and we'll get into the different variations of residue. Residue is basically things that are not changed that reference the original. Now, the original itself is what is changed. So references to it wouldn't necessarily be changed, and that is also some people use as proof or evidence. But wow, Elaine, you just blew my mind with the thinker statue. I didn't even have that on the agenda here. I can't believe they changed that. That doesn't even look right. It doesn't. To think that I would misremember how it looked when I had a whole class on it. I mean, it's just crazy. I would not misremember that. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's going to misremember, like, all these other famous statues. I mean, it's just so weird. Flapop says, stuff like this tells me we're definitely living inside of some simulation or computer program spirit game. Something definitely is not what we were taught that it is. Elaine says, I think this might always have been happening and the internet allowed us to see it. Yeah, that's a curiosity. That is curious, yeah. Flat Bob says, where Bruce finds his receipts, I'll never know, but it's amazing. Elaine says, the Bible, the Lion and the Lamb is now the Wolf and the Lamb. I'm not religious, but I even knew that one. There's actually quite a few. Apparently they added the word the Matrix to they added Matrix to the Bible as well, to the King James Version. Yeah, that's weird. Run Boston Bear says, the Thinker is wild. That's a new one for me, and there's new ones popping up all the time. I'm just going to go through the originals here for this intro episode. Elaine says, better look at your stuff, Bruce. It might have changed. Well, we didn't actually have the statue. We didn't have the real one. So we were looking at photos of it, and then we had our own drawings and photos of models doing the pose. So I don't think any of my stuff would have changed. Flat Earth NZ says, Pikachu's another one with a color tip on tail or not. I did see someone selling an old 90s toy with Pikachu with the tail tip about a year ago. I can't remember if he did it or not. Elaine says, the Thinker has changed many times, getting closer and closer to swallowing his hand. Oh, you guys want to see the Thinker with the kids in front of it? It just looks so wrong now. And that's not like a natural way to hold your hand either. So that's what I mean contextually. That's not a natural way to even hold your hand. Wait a second. In your timeline, so I'll put it on the screen here. Is this what you're referring to? In my original timeline, the Thinker had his hand under his chin straight, not on his head. Is this the one you're referring to? They're all doing head. and then the thinker has it under the chin, but really awkward and closer to the mouth with a really awkward bend in the wrist. That's not my timeline. My timeline is a pretty straight wrist right underneath the chin, which is actually a very natural position. Like, because I've done that myself. I mean, that's just a natural position. So the current statue is not natural. I think that's kind of part, regardless of what is causing the effect, I think part of it is a humiliation ritual because you're using the context of what is or isn't natural or what does or doesn't make sense. Because if you just look up like thinking poses, like what's natural for a human, like what is a natural position for a human, like this will come up. Like your hand is not going to be awkwardly bent. It's going to be pretty straight, fist under the chin. That's how I remember the thinker statue. And I've also sat like this. I think everybody's kind of sat like this, not in an extremely awkward position with the wrist bent in such a way as to, I mean, this looks like it would cause pain. The way the current statue is, it looks like it would actually cause pain to the wrist. Like if you're actually putting weight on it like this. Like, that's so uncomfortable. I don't know. I mean, do people sit like that? It just seems really uncomfortable, especially the severity of the bend in his back. Like, if his back was straighter, and maybe he was, like, leaning back on a chair, then maybe that wouldn't be painful. But with that severe of a back bend, that's a lot of weight on the wrist like that. It's extremely unnatural. Whereas if you just look at stock footages of people thinking on their fist, with their fist under their chin, it's a natural position. But that bend is so incredibly unnatural. Now check out this 3D rendering. Some people might say this is residue because it's not the original image. But here's a 3D rendering of the thinker, and this is more how this is how it was in my timeline. Actually, that's still too much on the mouth. Still a little too much on the mouth. But look at the angle of the fist and the wrist. This is more of the angle that I remember. Let's see what everybody else remembers here. Elaine says, do you have a picture of the model you used? I have no idea where all that stuff is. It's probably in storage, but I could try to find it. Elaine says head is the original. Huh. Raised by Gypsy says, I remember the same about the thinker. You mean head or straight angled fist under the chin? Elaine says, I had residue of Billy Graham dying twice. I just looked into my bookmarks and it's gone. Elaine says, there's a picture of Muhammad Ali imitating the thinker and it's on his forehead. Big Pine Sailing says, I recall it hand to hand. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm trying to remember the first time I ever saw the thinker. Because that would be curious. The first time I ever saw it. So this is curious. I'm finding some models here that people have done of the thinker. This is kind of what I remember. So I remember it with a straight wrist. Look how straight that is. So this is a replica, whatever you want to call it. This is how I remember it. Well, it's probably more under the chin though, but the angle of the wrist. You see the difference in angle of the wrist? In the new version, that angle of the wrist is so beyond awkward. It just doesn't make any sense. I remember it more under the chin and not on the mouth, but the angle of the wrist was straight. See, this would be considered residue here for me. Because here's an old article. Here's an old newspaper article. We got sidetracked with the thinker. This really originally wasn't on the agenda. Look at how straight that wrist is, though. Gloom and consternation blanketed a Cleveland Museum of Art as a stream of visitors came by to see the sculpture that wasn't there. Rodin's The Thinker, severely damaged by a bomb blast earlier, so the bronze figure has been a museum landmark since that. So this is supposedly the original. Does that look anything like the new version? So this is from a newspaper article. Now obviously the angle is different, but doesn't his wrist look pretty straight in this old newspaper article? Looks pretty straight. This is how I remember it, except maybe more under the chin. But now I'm not quite sure of the exact... I'm 100% sure of the angle of the wrist. But I'm not quite 100% sure. I thought he had it under the chin with a straight wrist. But the newer reenactments have it with the extremely bent wrist. Anyway, let's get back on track here. The Thinker was not originally on the agenda here. That one kind of surprised me. I will try to find it if I can find my old drawings and photos of it. From my memory, it was under the chin with the head up a little bit more. And the wrist completely straight, which is natural. Like if you're, everybody should just do it. Like put your elbow on a desk or something, and muse and think. Like you're not gonna. I mean, I don't know if you'd have your wrist at that severe of an angle. It just looks weird. Let's get back to Tommy Cruise here, but that's pretty much it. I just looking at all these really old reenactment videos. Pre-social media, you would actually need to pop the tape in. Alright, so let's get... I mean, that's the main point here. All of the Halloween costume companies are mistaken. All of the reenactors pre-social media are all mistaken, according to the coincidence theorists. So all these people in the 90s recreating all of this, all mistaken, according to the coincidence theorists. Let's go through a few other Mandelas here, and then I'll do a couple more. I'll do one more major receipt. Major receipt. But yeah, like I said, this is just the introductory episode here. It's not going to be super long. So let's go through a few of these. Let's do Fruit of the Loom is a big one. And I have a receipt here as well. So Fruit of the Loom... So, some people clearly remember the cornucopia here. Doesn't it look weird without the cornucopia? I mean, it almost doesn't even make sense stylistically. It just doesn't look right, right? So, and again, how come all these people aren't misremembering other logos which aren't Mandela? How come only certain logos get Mandela affected? That's something coincidence theorists will never address. Welcome, Austin MP88. Yeah, Flat Earth NZ, this is just episode 1. I'm going to do the major... I mean, I have enough receipts to bury coincidence theorists for countless hours. This is just the introductory episode. I'm just giving everybody a taste here, just a small taste, but I will go through a few different theories and things that I found interesting. But I didn't want to make this like a huge 5-hour deep dive. That's what the next few episodes are for. Okay. So let's look at this receipt here. So this is a newspaper article here. Underwear character is still appealing. A2 fruité. Anyway, it clearly mentions here the Fruit of the Looms logo was initially a cornucopia. So you have, and again, there are editors here. Are they really all making mistakes when they're talking to actual affiliates and people involved with designing the logos and promoting the company themselves? So it's all misremembering, right? And that's the thing. Obviously, logos can change, but for coincidence theorist goofs to hallucinate that people are misremembering, no. The original logo clearly had a cornucopia. And there's quite a few receipts here. So, Fruit of the Looms logo was initially a cornucopia, right here. I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, I'm just doing a few quick little references here. This is known as residue and references to what was clearly not false memory. I mean, there's quite a few here. C3PO's leg. That's a weird one. Like I said, I was never into Star Wars, so... Jiffy versus Jeff. Alright, maybe I should do a receipt here on this one. So if you go through old newspapers, so here's what's curious, because newspapers, they're not digital. So these are, I believe, are scanned from microfiche. And they're quite old. Quite old. So even if the original logo is changed and that causes for it to appear changed everywhere. I mean, I actually have, again, I don't want to go, this isn't a multi-hour stream here. So I'll just provide a few receipts here. But these are actual newspaper. In the next episodes, I'll get all the actual links to it all. in all of these old newspapers going back decades, free kite with a jar of Jiffy peanut butter. Jiffy, not Jeff. Jiffy. I mean, I can drown coincidence theorists here. I mean, I have literally hundreds. Yeah, I've spent a decade on this. Hundreds. It is clearly Jiffy. Nobody is misremembering anything. It is Jiffy. And again, isn't it curious how only certain companies are Mandela'd? I mean, some of these are from the 70s here, well before social media. Jiffy, coincidence theorists. Jiffy. Hope everybody's enjoying this small taste of MINDSHOCK receipts. Jeff Hunt says, the only reason we know the cornucopia is Fruit of the Loom. Elaine says, there was a show in the 60s, Twilight Zone or something like it. It was about this little thing's totally different. I never forgot what it was. Chilling. Dr. Bass Ackward says, I posted a video yesterday of the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia. It's even in their patent. I mean, there are so many receipts here. I mean, it's curious. Again, I don't want to, I mean, in the following episodes, I will literally put every single receipt I have. It's going to take countless hours of the amount of receipts here that this is not false memory. Curious George with his tail here. I mean, wow. I remember reading Curious George, and part of some of the gags involved the tail. So, like, to think that he didn't have a tail. So who's ready for a major receipt here? For those that don't know, Curious George was actually originally based actually this is actually, oh, this is a major receipt here. I mean, this is major. Who's ready to drown some coincidence theorists? Coincidence theorists are going to need a ton of life preservers. So check out this ad. This is a Zozo cartoon for maple syrup from the 50s with Curious George. And check it out here. So this is a page from 1950s magazine Zozo cartoon, page for children. Zozo became Curious George the monkey, originally called Zozo to avoid having a monkey with the same name as King George VI. Written and drawn by Margaret and H.A. Ray in fine condition. So let's get this a little bigger. Actually, I have a bigger image of this. Everybody can see his tail there. Do the coincidence theorists have their glasses on? Do the coincidence theorists have their glasses on? You see that tail? Does anybody have any trouble seeing the tail there. Now, for the goofs hallucinating that people simply misremembered Zozo, I mean, he wasn't Zozo for that long. And most people don't know Zozo. So to think that everybody followed Zozo into Curious George, I mean, that's goofery cope. That's goofery cope. And why would they suddenly not have him have a tail? I mean, this is Curious George. It's just the same. They just changed the name because they didn't want it to be named after the king or whatever. They didn't change anything else. They didn't change the art style or anything. So, there's that one. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them right now with the receipts, but Run Boston Bear says, thoroughly enjoying Bruce. Great topic and delivery. We need logic and humor in this age. Yeah, I'm going to save one of my best proofs for last, but we're almost there. This isn't a long episode here. This is just an introduction to Mandela. Fruit Loops is an interesting one. So, call me crazy. In my timeline, it was always F-R-O-O-T. Because I remember thinking, that's weird, they spelled it wrong. Because I remember eating it, and I thought, oh, that's so weird that they spelled it wrong. So it was introduced 1963. Wow, that's a lot older than I thought, but okay. Yeah, what does everybody else think of this? With Fruit Loops. Martin Haley says F-R-U-I-T. Interesting. Interesting. Beacon of Truth says it was always F-R-O-O-T. And part of the PSYOP social engineering could be including fake Mandelas. So let's not forget that. I mean, the coincidence theorists deal in false dichotomies, but there could also be some presented as Mandela effects that are not, to further confuse the issue. Canada Spaceman says, I am unsure, but thought it was Fruit Loops when we bought them in the 70s, 80s. Yeah, I distinctly remember F-R-O-O-T, because I would eat them while looking at the box and saying, oh, that's so weird how they spelled it wrong. But it makes sense, though, because it loops with the O-O and their O's. So this is the inverse logic here. Because on some of the other Mandelas, they changed it to not make sense, but it kind of makes sense marketing-wise to be O-O-T and O-O because of the loops. So it makes sense. Beacon of Truth Tarot says, it's hard to find photos of the real Mandela. Well, you can't. If it's a Mandela, you would only be able to find residue, which was what we're going over. Alright, just a couple more here before we round this all out. So with the Flintstones, is it the Flintstones or the Flintstones? So the Flintstones doesn't roll off the tongue. So even though Flint makes sense contextually, it does not make sense marketing-wise. But I really don't remember the show. I vaguely, very vaguely remember it, so I can't really say, unlike with all these other, with certain ones that I have personal experience with. A lot of people actually remember both. So this is a case of the flip-flop Mandela effect, like what happened to me live with Houston, we have a problem, or Houston, we've had a problem. Yeah, Beacon of Truth says, I always assumed it was flint stones, but that looks weird, written like the extra T doesn't belong. Correct. So this is a marketing issue. Now, for anybody who's worked in marketing or graphic design, I mean, you could definitely spell things wrong. I mean, look at Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops. If we're siding with the coincidence theorist here, Flint stones is just weird to say. Flintstones makes sense. It rolls off the tongue. What's weird, some people think they're either aliens or interdimensional entities screwing around with everything. What else is curious, are these companies intentionally putting out, let's say, typos? Because now, I mean, we're looking at some residue here from the social media age. So some of these trading cards or whatever, they have typos. The Flintstones. Is this a typo on purpose, and are they flip-flopping Flintstones and Flint stones back and forth? I mean, that's another curiosity. And it's not the only one. Apparently, there's a couple of these cards with either a typo or some kind of flip-flopping back and forth. Because these are two different ones here that say Flintstones. Very, very curious here. Some people also think that people are, instead of timelines being changed, individual people are going into different timelines day to day. That's a curious one as well, isn't it? But yeah, we're not going to dive too deep. This is just an intro here. I want to go over two more major ones. I mean, this one is interesting too. Just as an artist, it's way more visually appealing for Pikachu to have black on the tail. It just looks boring without the black, doesn't it? So forget Mandela. If you're just making an artistic choice, clearly you're going to have a little bit of black on the tail. Unless Pikachu didn't have black on the ears, then it would be a little bit more uniform. That could make sense. But because the black is still on the ears pre-post Mandela, it would stand to reason that the tail would also make sense. But again, I'm not going to spend many hours on this. I have two more main ones I want to go over. One of them is one of my major proofs. So let me just catch up on the comments here real quick, and then we'll get into the final two. For this introductory episode, obviously the deep dives will be coming. Flat Bob says definitely had the black tail. It just doesn't make sense visually, artistically, in any kind of way to not have the black on the tail. Sparkling Willow says simple answer here, CERN. Not so simple, but... Beacon says saying it without the T is just won't. There was a staccato in there. Flintstones. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. Flintstones. Without the T. It just makes sense. Alright. Let's, yeah, so here's the one we went over before.
Just take those down.
Hello, Claire. Hello, Claire.
People.
Hello, Clary.
Oh, it actually wasn't in there. Hold on, give me a second here. So I want to go to Star Wars, Luke, I am your father, one of the most quoted lines ever. So, you know, it's kind of weird. Like, the coincidence theorists would have a better job convincing everybody misremembered things on non-super famous lines because they weren't that famous. I mean, there are certain fanatics that are die-hard fanatics. Yeah, random kids might be misremembering and saying it wrong, whatever. But the die-hard fanatics, we're going to look at the die-hard fanatics, and then what I consider a major proof of Mandela. So, let's look at this.
One never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
Hey, what?
I'll never join you.
If you only
When I,
on the dark side.
when I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father. When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father. When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father, I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play that lie out.
So you have an actor here, a professional actor. This isn't some little kid misremembering. This is someone who reads scripts and delivers dialogue for a living. So this is someone who has spent countless hours with the script, countless hours delivering dialogue. This isn't a random nobody. So coincidence theorists would have you believe that he is mistaken about the script that he received, the script that he looked at, the script that he read, and the dialogue that he delivered. So this is a Primetime Emmy winner, 2 Tony Awards, a Grammy Award, Golden Globe Award-winning actor, Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, and in 2011 he received an Academy Honorary Award. I mean, this is an award-winning actor, a professional, dedicated his life to thespianism. I mean, he spent his whole life reading scripts and delivering dialogue. He says, it's, Luke, I am your father. That's curious. The coincidence theorists cope to dismiss this. I mean, it's insane. So that's a major one. Does anybody have any thoughts on this here before I get to my piece de resistance? I've never seen a coincidence theorist counter what I'm about to present next. But does anybody have any thoughts on Luke, I Am Your Father? I'm not going to play, in this episode, I'm not going to play the countless reenactments of this scene. Everybody's talking about Monopoly Man and the Monocle and Mr. Peanut, but does anybody have any thoughts on Luke, I Am Your Father? Now again, I wasn't a Star Wars watcher or buff in any way, but I'm not going to hallucinate I know better than the guy that read the script and read the line. I mean, that's kind of goofery. Does anybody know what a script supervisor is on a movie? It's someone who checks to make sure the dialogue matches the script or matches continuity so that there are no major mistakes that could be embarrassing. Let me play another clip here from another movie where you would know that someone double-checked the dialogue on a major multi-million-dollar Hollywood film. And again, even if the kids reenacting the movie got it wrong, I mean, did James Earl Jones get it wrong? I mean, this is one of his major roles. Let's look at this movie, Tommy Boy. Again, there are script supervisors on these movies.
La la la, Luke, Luke, I am your father. La 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 la, Luke, Luke, I am your father. Lord, la la.
So, again, I mean, just everybody the coincidence theorist position is that everybody missed everything. Just countless times. All these nerds. See, the thing is, like, some of these die-hard fanatics, nerds and geeks, like, they're literally watching the movie while they're doing the reenactment to make sure they get it right. Elizabeth Hudson says, Luke, I am your father. My son saw it 12 times. Yeah, and no, I am your father. It just doesn't sound right. Like the inflection, all of it doesn't really sound right. So, unless, I mean, coincidence theorists would have more of a leg to stand on if in the original release or the original, I don't know, the first 10, 20, maybe in the special editions or something, they changed something many decades later. But supposedly it was always like that, which it clearly wasn't. Flat Bob says, I had a Darth Vader action figure and he said, Luke, I am your father. Yeah. 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 I'm going to see if I can find a clip of that. I think I remember those, but... Alright, let me just get to my, my finale here. Let me get to the grand finale here. So, in the iconic song, Queen song, We Are the Champions, what has been Mandela affected is there is no longer of the world at the end of the song. So this was a popular song for decades. For decades. So, yeah, I distinctly remember of the world at the end of it. So, here is what I believe is some of the best evidence. Cover songs. So for those that are not musicians, I'm not a professional musician, but I know a little tiny bit about music. When people cover songs, they don't guess. They have the sheet music. They have the exact lyrics. There's no guessing. There's no going off of memory. Let's roll some receipts here, people. And there's actually dozens and dozens of these. I'm just going to go over a few. Some of these are from the 90s, some of them earlier, some of them later.
I've paid my dues. Of the world.
Any questions, coincidence theorists? Are there any questions? I mean, these are official cover songs. This was Dragon Attack, a tribute to Queen. So these are musicians giving tributes. I mean, they have the exact music and the exact lyrics. Once again, according to the Mandela effect, the original is changed. That doesn't mean any covers or reenactments would be changed. And again, if it was just one cover of people trying to do things differently, I mean, I'm not going to play a million here, but I'll play a few different ones just for the coincidence theorists. I mean, the receipts here, I mean, they're just extensive. And these are in multiple languages, too. I mean, we're talking different continents, different countries, different languages, and they all have of the world at the end. How do the coincidence theorists explain professional musicians in studios recording with all of the sheet music and all of the exact lyrics? I mean, I really would like to see what kind of coincidence theorist cope they can come up with.
I've paid my dues. Time I've paid my dues. Time I've
I've paid my dues, time after time. Of the world.
I mean, you have different covers, all different bands, all different countries, continents, languages, genres. You have all different genres covering We Are the Champions. They all have Of the World at the end. Now, I do not even come close to resting my case, but I rest my case for now. So this is just the introductory episode where I just demonstrated quite a bit of residual evidence, some residue, newspaper articles, I mean, reenactment videos, homages. I mean, there's just so much evidence here that this is not simple misremembering because, again, like, these professional musicians, they're not going off memory for these cover songs. Like, yeah, you can pretend some kids might have misremembered a few things. But to hallucinate professional musicians are all going off memory and just riffing, but somehow they don't mess up, like all these non-Mandela affected songs. Somehow those are all covered perfectly, but the Mandela affected ones are not. I mean, coincidence theorists cope on that. I would like to hear what it is. Run Boston Bear says, Bruce, do you think the Mandela effect has any association with flat versus globe battle? I'm not saying flat earth is a Mandela, just that we are being royally messed with on many fronts. Yes, maybe. It might also have something to do with the pineal gland and how many people are aware versus unaware of what's going on around them. So we'll be getting more into that as well. So yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I have countless hours of receipts similar to the Steven Seagal series, if people haven't checked that out. I mean, the coincidence theorists need life preservers for the amount of receipts here. So I'll catch you guys next time in the next episode. I'll try to make this like maybe a weekly series, or at worst bi-weekly. There's just so much to cover here. So much evidence. I mean, I have literally thousands of newspaper articles with residue. And I guess the coincidence theorists are going to pretend newspapers don't have editors. All the marketing specialists for the officials of the companies are all mistaken about everything. The people working on the logos are all mistaken. I mean, I have literal interviews and quotes from people who designed logos, confirming the memories of those the coincidence theorists are pretending are misremembering. So this is going to be a long series. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. If you want to help support the MindShock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct. You can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast, depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunks of any kind, leave them in the comments section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.